It's after the hour, and we have a quorum. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The approval of the minutes for the March 2nd meeting. Is there a motion and a second to approve the minutes for the March 2nd meeting?
I so move.
Is there a second? Okay.
Can I second my own minutes?
Of course you can.
Yeah, I second that.
Are there any errors or omissions? If not, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Again, thank you very much, Susan.
You're welcome.
Do you have anything further to add about what we see with the trails?
Well, I made some progress actually today. I finally, not getting any pictures for features. I just tried to take my own camera, digital camera, and take pictures of the copies of pictures that Amanda handed out at the beginning, and it worked. So I'm getting those in the
Okay, good.
presentation, and I received this map from Wendy. This
Oh, you
forest
did get,
type.
okay, great.
Yeah, so however we use that, I don't know. I put it into the past perfect presentation, but I don't know how it's gonna look once it's being projected on the wall, if it's gonna be legible or just a bunch of black marks, so.
Okay.
I'm gonna come another day and Amanda and I will give that a try. and see what it
Okay.
looks like.
Have you had a chance to talk with Mark McConkey to get an update on the path that he was following with
No.
that? Okay,
No.
all right,
Um,
all right. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
No.
The Learning Center. As you know, next Friday, weather permitting, we're going to be going over to Unity. And I've been looking at the state maps of roads, and I'm not sure you can get it to Unity from here. It's a tough place to get to, but we will get there, I'm sure. But I'm looking forward to that, and what I will do between now and next Friday is I'll touch base with Dawn just to confirm that, and maybe she can give us better directions to what I've been able to find. I think we're scheduled for about 11 o'clock, and I would figure at least two and a half hours to get over there.
Yeah, I checked it out, well, I didn't go
Okay.
to Unity, but close by. Down 93, up 89, and then you take the turn off towards Claremont, and it's beyond that.
Unity is the community to the southeast of Claremont.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was about 2.5 hours, I think.
Yeah, that's what I had figured as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. I know we didn't discuss carpooling when we went down to Bedford. Is there any thoughts of carpooling this time? Is everybody on their own to get there?
I may not be able to make it,
Or you may not be able to make it,
Yeah.
okay. Okay,
not sure yet.
but everybody will get there in our own way?
Yeah, I'll probably just.
Okay, all right, okay. What I would like to do, and I've discussed this briefly with Steve, I'd like to kind of bypass the matrix right now and go on and continue the discussion that we had last week about the feasibility study and whether, in fact, that was something we wanted to take on ourselves. And a little bit of history here. I think, and you correct me, we never took any formal votes, but I think we made the decision that the trails, we would do that ourselves. We would not put that up for a feasibility study. And I think we were slowly coming to the conclusion that we would do the same thing with the education center here, that again, we would do that ourselves. Have I missed something? Okay.
Conservation,
I think the conservation, that was
Will be done.
brain dead. No.
Yeah.
So the only thing, what we discussed last week, was the breadth of the agricultural component, which is the first thing on the matrix system, and whether we felt that we had the expertise in the background to do it ourselves. I did watch the video again last night to kind of capture, and Dale had put the question on the table as to whether we need to do a feasibility study on that as well, rather than do that in-house. And you seem waiting to go, Dale.
Oh, no,
Okay.
I've said my piece.
Oh, okay, all right. So I'd like to discuss that, because we need to make a decision. If we decide we want to make the application for the feasibility study through the Charter Foundation, we've got exactly 3 weeks from today to do it, which is not a lot of time. So whatever decision we make, we've got to make that today. I would like us to leave today making the decision, what is it we're going to be doing? So if we need 2 hours of further discussion, I'll take the 2 hours. But I want to get going on that. Let me just jump in. This is a little caveat. This morning, I had another meeting, North Country Council meeting. And what they do is they go around the table and they say, who's working on any projects you want to talk about? So I brought up this. And much to my pleasant surprise, there was a lot of interest in what we were doing here. And I told them that we were exploring this, that we didn't have any answers, but we were exploring it, looking to come up with something with we could use the resources and the asset of the farm and so forth. And that we're going to be going over and talking to the folks in Sullivan County, even though it's about the Education Center, to see what they've learned. They've done studies on this. And as I say, and afterwards, 2 people came up to me and said, this is interesting. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And I just found, I was pleasantly surprised that there was a lot of interest in this. And the point that I made on this, because we were talking about high tech and high paying jobs and all of that, and I said, I participated in that discussion. I think it's important. I said, but we're losing sight of the fact that the most important thing we need to worry about is whether we can get 3 meals a day. Because if we can't get 3 meals a day, all that other stuff doesn't matter at all. It's irrelevant. And they said, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I said, so that's what we're focusing on in our committee. One of the things we're focusing on is basically, how do we use the farm, if we can, to utilize this, and we're discussing that right now. So I just give that as a little caveat, as kind of an intro to this, that there is much more interest out there than I thought there would be about the idea of, gee, are there ways that we can better feed ourselves more locally? Sandy?
This council, what does that council do?
The North Country Council is a regional economic development. There are 6 of them in the state. The North Country Council, it goes from basically Tamworth, Madison, over to like Lebanon, on up to Pittsburgh. There are 53 towns that comprise the North Country Council. And I am on what they call the CEDS committee, that's CEDS, which stands for Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. And right now, we're in the process of rewriting a 4-year economic goals that will be funded by the EDA, Economic Development Administration, which is a federal agency. And every 4 years, you've got to review that, revise it, and update it. And I am hoping in that to put agriculture on there as one of our goals. But whether I'll be successful or not, I don't know. But as I said, much to my pleasant surprise, I found real interest in what this committee was attempting to do. So there is interest out there. So having said that, Dale, I'm going to put you on the spot. You had made the case the last time, questioning whether we needed to do a feasibility study. So I'm going to let you kick it off again, if you don't mind, basically just kind of focusing on this again.
What, repeat what I said last week?
Repeat what you said last time, yeah.
That I believe that our time would be better spent to not do the feasibility study, and the things we are sure about as a group, we continue with. The things we aren't sure about, we reach out to people in Carroll County or surrounding areas that can teach us about the things we're not sure about.
Mm-hmm.
And that will give us enough information to put it out there to see if there's interest in whatever we decide to do. And that would tell us one way or another if it's feasible or not.
Okay.
Example.
Okay, go ahead.
If someone wants to do, like we talked about last week, when Sandy and I role played, and she was the farmer and I was the landowner, if we want to do commercial farming, we put it out there that we have X amount, we get our information to what we have to offer, whether there's water, acres, buildings or not, whatever we have, and we put it out there and whatever media would get it into the proper hands to see if there's interest in doing that here. If we have interest, then the possibility is it might be feasible. If we don't get interest, then we either put it on the back burner and try it again later, or decide that it's not feasible.
If I remember correctly, last week, we discussed to some extent, and again, refresh my memory here. Do we want to spend, should we first hear from the commissioners and to some extent the delegation, what they would allow on the property? Should we spend time and energy working out something and then present it to the, and I know Representative Comeau had said, well, let's give them the option. But are there things that we're still wasting our time on? I don't know, because my sense is in this is going to be far more evolved if we do it than we think. Because we're going to have to really touch base on a lot of different things. I'm not saying no, don't do it. But I think if this is a direction we want to intend to move in, I think we've got to have a much clearer understanding of what's going to be involved. Because I don't think the 5 or 6 of us can do this on our own. As you mentioned, Dale, we've got to be reaching out to others with far more expertise and know-how than we do, so that that component they can put on the table that we can now build a case on. Sandy?
Well, I'm sorry, I thought I heard Dale say that if there were things that we didn't think we had the information on how to proceed, that we would contact people who might be able to tell us how to proceed.
Yeah, yeah.
Am I correct?
You're correct, like
Yeah.
we've done
Yeah.
with the other thing.
Yes.
You are
yes.
100%
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
You did hear me say that.
all right.
Did what I say imply that I was contradicting him?
No, I just wanted some clarification.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, like we've done, and like, I'll throw another example out there.
Yep.
Next Friday, we're headed to Sullivan County.
Yep.
And I believe you said, and I agree, that after that trip, it will clear us up whether we think this is something we want to do here or not,
Mhm.
or have the option to do here. I think we were, correct me if I'm wrong, we were on the same page as we'll know once this trip is completed, or have a much clearer picture,
Yeah.
whether we think this educational learning center is a feasible option.
Yep.
So yeah, it would be the same, along the same lines of doing that with the other things we have on the matrix. But Steve brings up a good point too. Before we do anything with these, we need to make sure it's okay with the commissioners and the delegation that if we go forward with this, it's something that would be allowed here or not.
On the property.
Yeah, without question. Because I'm not a big fan of wasting time, I know no one else is either. So, yeah, before I dive into something, I want to make sure we don't do all the work and then someone says, well, we're not doing that here, so, sorry.
Mhm.
I also have another
Go, Sandy.
comment.
Yep.
If today we decide that, yeah, maybe we better go ahead with a feasibility study, to me, that sounds like we would then have, at the end of today, we'd have only 2 weeks left to work on that grant document, am I correct?
We have 3 weeks today.
After today?
Yes, we've got 3 weeks, till the 30th. Today's the 9th. Next week is the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th.
All right, so, okay, good.
We've got 3 weeks. But that's
But if
cramming a
we-
lot in it. Go ahead.
But if we decide that we do need to go ahead with making that grant application, and then we also decide to go ahead with that trip to Sullivan County,
Yep.
then we'll have only 2 weeks.
You're absolutely right. We've lost a week.
Right,
Yep, you're right.
okay. Just timing.
Timing's becoming everything. What, last week I handed out basically the outline from the New Hampshire Charter Foundation of 5 or 6 questions there that they want us to answer. And the verbiage was limited, no more than 100 words here and 300 words there and so forth. And so I don't know whether we have to start doing bullets on some of this stuff just to highlight it, or how detailed we could get. But as I read this, we've talked a lot about a request for proposal, which is what would go out to anybody who wanted to do the feasibility study. And as I read the documentation of what the Charter Foundation was looking for, I didn't get a sense that they were looking for specific, okay, we're going to be studying this, we're going to be studying that. They wanted a much broader outline, and then once get the grant, then in the RFP, the request for proposal, then we would much more specifically outline, this is what we want you to take a look at, this is what we want done. Anybody here who's had more experience with grants than I do, is that basically how this thing works?
I would tend to agree with you.
Okay, all right, all right, all right. But the question is now, is whether we're gonna go ahead with the feasibility study, or whether we feel comfortable and confident in doing it in-house. Because I think it's gonna require reaching out for a lot more expertise. To someone who did the feasibility study, they would get that expertise, and now we're saying we can do that ourselves. And I think that, and that's a question that we've really got to answer. I know, Dale, you have said, and it may be out there, but do we know who to go to tap into it?
Is there, could you, and I'm not trying to be argumentative.
No, go ahead.
But is there anything on this matrix that you would think we wouldn't be able to find the information out relatively quickly ourselves?
I don't know. That's not being argumentative, it's a valid question. And I don't know. I don't know. What I did do, and I didn't email it to everybody, and maybe others have already looked, I went to the Thompson School website, and I was gonna send that to everybody. I did not, but it's there, and it outlines the 5 or 6 programs that they've got. Now, whether it's a state university, they should be open to everybody, whether they'd be willing to, if we went down there, to answer some of those questions and open that up to us, I don't know. But you're right, Dale. We're using next Friday's trip over to Sullivan County as a model. This is the template.
Just for the educational?
Yes, but can that be also transferred to others as well? Looking for other information on the agricultural component, would those resources be available as easily as well? And I don't know.
And I tried to find this week,
Yeah.
and I don't remember, and I don't have it in my notes, because I did look back, believe it or not. Which county was it that already has done a feasibility study, other than Sullivan County?
Cheshire County.
Cheshire County,
Yes.
okay. And we have that.
We have
I believe I have
Yes, we
that,
do.
but I can't find it.
Yeah,
But,
I will send it to you. I've got it.
okay, I know I had it, but I can't find
Yeah.
it, so. But yeah, I mean, we have that information already.
Yes.
We have the Sullivan County one that we're gonna have
Yeah,
on Friday.
yeah.
Plus, they have not only direct information from them, but they did a feasibility study on the Educational Learning Center for themselves,
They
correct?
did, they did. That was a component. It was, I believe it was an outfit in Laconia, Russ Thibault, Applied Economic Associates or something like that. They
Yeah.
did this study. Was it? Okay.
He's good.
I thought it was better than I thought it was.
Yeah, no, he's good.
They did it in a PowerPoint presentation, which I always like because it's simple. You can just kind of read the bullets as you go along. But in what I had sent to you, that this Lionel shoots them, is there are 2 PowerPoint presentations there. And there's a lot of information on both of them, but they did.
Did they also back that up with a written presentation, document?
I think that was something that was pending, it was still in the works.
Okay.
I know whether they have gotten that or not, I don't know, Sandy, but they did get the PowerPoint presentations that Russ
Yeah.
Thibault did. In fact, at the first committee, I had contacted him also, not knowing that he had done the Sullivan study, to see whether he might be interested in doing it. And at that point in time, he says, I'm too busy, I can't. But it was afterwards I found and talked with Lionel over at Sullivan County, and I found out that he was the one that had done theirs. But, and what I mentioned, I'm repeating myself, is that I found a lot of similarities between Sullivan County and Carroll County. Population-wise, they're almost the same. We're 45, 46, they're 43. They're rural. They're not the most prosperous county in the state, as we are not either. They have 2,200 acres of land, and theirs, we have about 900. And they've got 5 or 6 different parcels. And like us, they also have an empty building. We have the nursing home, they have an empty building, and they really want to utilize them to use that. And the county government just said, no, we're not gonna go that road at all. But they had really put something forward to you. They wanted to create a regional sustainable agricultural platform in which they would hold workshops in the region, New England workshops and so forth to promote sustainable farming. And but anyway, that just didn't go. But anyway, to get back to the theme here. All right, what would we want, okay, let's build this then. What would we want studied? We're not doing this ourselves, and as you said there, we've got the matrix here. What is it we want to study? To give us a complete picture and overview.
Well, the stuff we talked about was the production ag things, items.
Okay, itemize that, Sandy.
So one was a food hub.
Okay. I think Andy Kendall from the Kendall Foundation could give us a lot of information on that, I'm hoping, because that was one of his real big points, is to
Right.
become a food hub.
But if we're going to be doing that study ourselves,
Yep,
that means, you first have to define it, and there's multiple different
Yeah.
definitions of food
Yeah.
hubs. One key component of any of those, that research is going to be identifying your customers and your suppliers,
yep,
the sustainability thereof, and any of the infrastructure that you may or may not need. And that could take a fair amount of time to put together that component of doing the study.
Yep.
It doesn't matter, if we do it ourselves, it's gonna take a lot longer than having
Yep.
somebody else do it.
yep,
If we talk about grains and other crops to support local businesses, microbreweries, that may take more, it's gonna take some research to figure out, A, which businesses could benefit from local crops, which food production manufacturing companies. And then what crops would support them, what volumes, quality, form of the product. I know that the co-op, North Country Farmers Co-op, just paid in 2017, we paid a consultant $20,000 to do part of a market research study, and we spent another close to 20,000 of our own time to do the other half of it. And it took about 6 months. And that's only looking at, a few crops.
yeah, one component of it.
And we surveyed companies through northern New England, Mass, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire.
Sandy,
It took about
yeah.
a couple hundred hours.
Let me ask you a question, Sandy, because I think this is important. As we've said, Sullivan County has done a feasibility
Yeah.
study. Cheshire County has done a feasibility study. Your group, the North Country Farmers Co-op, has done studies. We can go on the internet and we can get what Sullivan County and Cheshire
Sure.
County have done. How would the North Country Farmers Co-op feel if we asked them for the results of some of their studies? Would they willingly give that up, or would they say, hey, this cost us money, why should we give it away?
Well, the president may say that, I'm not,
Yeah.
And it was sort of a specialized study. I just used that example
Yeah,
as an example of what it takes to do that kind of a study.
mhm. And that was just one segment of it.
That was one segment of it.
Yeah.
That was one segment of it.
What the fact,
Okay,
yeah. Yeah.
okay.
If you're talking about hydroponics and aquaponics,
Yeah,
what I know about that stuff is just sort of skims the surface, floats on the water, if you will.
I get it, good one.
Dale, you got the floor, go.
Oh, back to the food hub thing.
Okay.
The definition of a food hub from the USDA is a centrally located facility with a business management structure facilitating the aggregation, storage, processing, distribution, and/or marketing of locally regional produced food products. So Sandy has, I don't know if we're on the same page or not, we have to do this big, huge study, whether we do it a feasibility study or we do it ourselves. This is where
Go ahead.
Hold on, this is where Sandy's at, that we don't have, it's a couple hundred hours, we either pay for half of it or do it ourselves or whatever. If we, say we go through all the process that we already talked about, the commissioners say, yeah, we'll allow a food hub here. The delegation says, yeah, we'll allow a food hub here. Why can't we skip is a bad word. Not do, why do we have to do a study to see if it's good here? Why can't we put it out there that the Carroll County Lands Committee, whatever we are, I forget what we are, has been approved to advertise the possibility of a food hub on Carroll County farm land. Let's say, and we'll get back to my original argument, that two people say, hey, I might like to run a food hub on the Carroll County land. Wouldn't that become their job, if they want to do all that work to see if they think it's feasible for a business to run here? Why should we do that when whoever's gonna come in here and lease whatever we offer for land, buildings, whatever it may be, if they wanna do that, why is it Carroll County's job to do the study to see if it's feasible?
Let me ask you a question, throw it back to you. You're trying to grow your market, and you say, gee, I wonder if I can find some customers here. Now, you go out and knock on doors, but now you're doing all that work, and you may feel, I don't have the time to do this. I want to get into artisanal grains. Gee, is there really a market for that? And somebody could say, well, do the work to see if there is. When you look at, to search for optimal use or uses of Carroll County's 894 acres and buildings for the benefit of Carroll County residents and taxpayers. To throw something out there and say, well, okay, throw it on a wall and see what sticks. I'm not sure that we're taking the direction that, we're letting somebody else take the direction, and maybe we're comfortable with that. But I would like to think that we're putting some sort of a program on the table here saying, these are what we think are good potential uses. We've done studies that we think that there's a market there.
Do we have to do a study to see if it's a good potential use?
Well, you made a comment about the feasibility study. Whether we contract that out to somebody or whether we do it, we're still doing a feasibility study.
No.
The question is, who's doing the study?
We're not, though. That's not what I'm saying. You're missing what I'm saying.
He's saying that we're not doing one, period.
No, yes, but instead of us doing the work and spending via grant and matching funds from the delegation, $20,000
Yeah.
to do a feasibility study, we're turning it around, we're still doing our legwork to see if we think it's a viable option for the property. But the person who's interested in running said food hub, because that's what we're talking about
Yeah.
right now, is interested in it, then they do the legwork to see if it's a feasible for them if they think it's gonna be a good business opportunity for them to run a food hub, which has been okay to be run on Carroll County farm property, for them to do that as a business. I'm not saying that we still have to do it, and I'm not saying I'm taking the easy way out and being lazy.
But you're saying, if they think it's a good idea and they want
Let
to
them
try
do
it,
the
it's
study.
like any other business, you try it.
Exactly.
And if it flunks, it flunks.
Because
But it's not on us.
I'll take, for you, turn around to me, for example, if I want to say, oh, I have a great idea, I want to see if I can sell geese, farm-raised geese all over the place. I've never done it before. So I go out and I do my work to see if there's a market for it. There isn't a market for it, I'm not doing it. Or there is, I put the work in to get it started. So it would be the same idea here, say the artisan grains. There are bakeries out there that are looking for this stuff. But to find someone who's gonna do it and to see if it's feasible for them to grow these artisan grains on our property, that, they can do that, instead of us doing it, if I'm being clear.
I'm understanding it.
Okay. I'm not trying to take the lazy way out at all. We're still gonna do our legwork. We still have to decide what on this matrix or any other idea we come up with or is given to us. We still need to decide whether it fits our mold of what we want here and what we think could be acceptable and a good use of the land. But I think it should be up to the people, and worst case scenario, we put out there that we think a food hub would be good here, or we think that would be allowed, and we have no interest. So we've just spent X amount of dollars to see if a food hub is okay, and the feasibility tells us yeah, but we have no one that wants to run it, or no one that wants to do it.
Or the feasibility study may tell us that we do or do not have the facilities here that would make operating a food hub practical.
See, that confuses me, because I don't know, and I might be ignorant, but I don't know how a feasibility study is gonna tell us if we have the right
Facility?
land or facilities for a food hub.
Well, many of the food hubs that do currently exist have cold storage for crops, or they have offices. They're not going to have growing capacity
Right.
per se.
Right, it's a storage, marketing,
It's generally a
processing.
storage and marketing and aggregation and distribution point, generally.
right.
Which I don't see how that utilizes the lands.
It doesn't utilize the land, it could utilize part of the building.
Or, if someone wants to do it, they could say, hey, we're gonna put a big portable tent structure up for food storage. If they wanna do that, it would have to be up to your two sides of the table to decide whether that's allowable or not. But that's not, I don't think it's our job to tell, I think we should do it the other way. Find interest, and if we don't, at this point, it's not feasible. We can always come back to it later. Or if we do have interest, then those people that are interested tell us how they're gonna do it. And then your two groups decide, we're gonna go with this one because they have the best plan.
That's basically the way the process works now. Someone comes, you're entertaining, my understanding is you're entertaining some use of the building. They'll come forward, they'll ask, a lease will be written, and then it comes to us to whether it's gonna move forward. That's how the process works
But
right now.
where I think we need to assist that process is to decide what we want to allow here, and then put it, and again, this is something I don't know about, but I would assume there are publications and ways to reach people in each of these demographics to see if there's any interest from people in the area or out of the area who want to do said project here. And then let them decide if it's feasible or not. Let them use their money to see if it's feasible or not. But if we don't get any reaction to organic farming, then we don't have to worry about it at this point in time. But it's out there, and someone could come to us in 3 years, or come to you in 3 years and be like, hey, do you still have land available for organic farming? Well, I guess we do, or not at this time. But we need to do our legwork to see if it's gonna be allowed here, and if we think it's a good idea, and then get it out there into the public to see if there's any interest in doing that project. That's, again, that's just me.
Okay.
Now you're staring at me.
No, I think it's well said.
I guess, okay, let's stick with the food hub and the cold storage.
Okay.
All right. And I and 2 other farmers have interest in this.
Yeah.
Want to explore. So I would think the first thing we do is we want to come down and see just how much storage capacity there is there. Not
Or how
asking
much
you-
storage capacity you're willing to put up here.
Well, there is storage capacity here now. I want to know how much is there?
Well, that's information we need to get from.
Yeah,
these
yeah,
two
oh, no,
bodies.
yeah, this isn't going to require, you
It's
know.
essentially like an inventory.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so want to know how much.
Oh, no, you need to know how long does this food storage have to be? Is it a 8-hour from the farmers bring it in at 8 o'clock and the people pick it all up by 5 o'clock? Or is it a week-long operation or?
Yeah,
Or
those are-
ongoing throughout the year.
Well, right, I know that, but is it a 1 day a week? That the produce comes in and it goes out the same day? So
Well,
you
that would be
only
there to say-
need a minimal storage? Or is it something where you're gonna be keeping stuff in
Like a
here for?
warehouse.
Well, that would be up to. the
That would be
people who
up
would be using-
to
That'd be up to them to
interested
determine.
party.
to
You and the
determine
other
that.
two farmers that are.
Exactly, but, you know, I would think that they'd want to know, first of all, how much storage capacity is
Right.
there? I think they probably want to know what's it going to cost them to use that building. There is going to be a cost, that's, you know, and even if the lease says that they will bear that cost, I think they'd still want to know, okay, and I'm just making up numbers, it's going to cost me $150 a month, but I want to know that. Is it,
Of course.
what's it going to cost me?
Yeah.
I've got to factor that in as a cost. How readily available is it? In other words, do I have to get in touch with somebody at the county to get down here to open it all up? Or do I have easy access to it? And you're right, it's not up to this feasibility study to determine the marketing. But if I think we want to basically determine, you know, we have done some studies and we think there's a market there. But you'd want to be doing more of your own studying as well, rather than relying maybe on us. But the thing is, okay, I'm interested. Myself and 2 other farmers are interested in doing this. Okay. So there are a series of questions that they would be asking. If they're good business people, they're going to be asking those questions. And it'll be up to us to basically answer the questions. You know, such as, can I get can I get in that thing at 10 o'clock at night? Well, no, because it's not available till 8 o'clock the next morning. We want to know that. Just, there are questions.
There's no
And,
cold food storage place in there.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, there
Yeah,
used
you
to be
have-
2 walk-in
Yeah,
coolers.
you got walk-in coolers.
Walk-in
But they're
coolers.
freezers, they're not coolers, are they?
You can.
There's
you can-
cooler,
You
you
can
can,
reverse it.
You
Yeah.
can reverse it.
and I believe there's refrigeration, I think. I don't
There
remember.
were-
Long ago we were
The
over.
freezers are both freezers.
There were
and
2
coolers?
freezers,
Yeah.
and I think there was a separate cooler.
I thought there were 2 coolers and a separate freezer.
You're right.
Yeah, okay.
There's 3 of something.
Yeah.
That keeps
Total,
things
three-
colder than
three in
normal.
total, yeah.
But yeah, the 3 interested parties
Yeah.
would do their due diligence to bring their best business plan forward.
Mhm.
And it would be up to commissioner's delegation, don't know the hierarchy, to decide which business plan they would want to go with.
Yeah.
Okay, now, let me throw a wrench in here. People in the community, people in the county have known that the annex was available for whatever brainstorming businesses they'd like to do. And we've only had maybe 3 come forward in 5 years now.
It's been more than that, I think.
Well, yes and no. I think part of what should be done here was talking about the basic inventory. We have a building with X number of square feet, it has refrigerators, so forth. We have X number of acres of hay production fields and this and that. And you have a report, a presentation that you put out that might reach out to a heck of a lot more people. My son-in-law didn't even know the county building was up here. Hadn't been up 171, okay? He works down the southern part of the state. There's people like that all over the place.
All over the county.
Yeah, so, you know, and a lot of people that are running businesses. A lot of farmers, I believe, don't have time to lift their head and get out, you know, from their normal production, so I think part of that is education, you know, that's being done, so.
But I think this.
And there's a group that'd like to tear that building down.
I'm only hyperventilating.
Tired of paying for ongoing
Exactly.
maintenance of it. so.
But,
We're talking about the nursing home building?
old one,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they call it the annex now. I keep referring to it as the nursing home and getting smart, but,
Okay.
the thing is, I think this committee needs to come up with is, as we talked about before, we have forest land and we pretty well, I think, opened that up to the population in the county with our with a trails committee and that plan. Now we have the agricultural land, which includes buildings, some buildings. And if we have a plan for one building, well, that's fine. But what about all the rest?
Well-
And should we put it all into one package? Or should we split it up into different packages?
Well, let's remember, we're talking about one idea of 25 or 30 here. A lot of these ideas aren't gonna need this much thought.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the 4-H animal science thing isn't gonna need much thought. The Boy Scout thing isn't gonna need much thought. I mean, it's all, and it just keeps bringing me back to my point. Most of the hard-hitting ones are under the production ag topic. But I think, I don't know, I think that we do our due diligence in finding the information out of what we're willing to offer and answer all these questions that someone coming in interested would ask. I think we can find the answers to those pretty
But
easily.
a lot depends. Now, you went down to the farm last week that I wasn't able, or
Yep.
2 weeks ago, I wasn't able to attend. Something of that nature would encompass the whole property, right?
It would encompass as much as we wanted it to encompass. We wouldn't have to do the whole property. I mean, they had, the thing to me that interested me down there, other than the day camps and the birthday parties and the other stuff that would create a revenue on this property, was the pastures for other farmers to bring their livestock.
And that's part of their project.
It is, it's part of
Yes.
what they do, and they're also looking to get into a poultry production end of it too. They're not gonna do the processing, but they wanna do the raising down there. I mean, and those are all options. Who's to say someone's not gonna come and say, hey, can I have 5 acres of land to raise X amount of turkeys?
I have a question for everybody.
Okay.
This feasibility study we're talking
Yeah.
about deciding if we need, what is the product of that supposed to be?
This is the best use of the land.
The best use of the land? Or is it to answer the inventory question?
That would be part of it.
That would be part of it?
Yes.
Okay. It would not be, and this is what I agree, it would not be saying whether it's practical or feasible economically to run a food hub on this property or anywhere else. It would just be, this is what we have.
This could be an option.
Right. That could, and just say, this could be an option.
Yeah. This could be a potential use.
I would hope that we'd get whether
It's
they
better
thought
than
it was
that.
practical or
Yeah.
not.
I mean, that's.
But
I
to me,
came up with a lot of ideas and a lot of them aren't
But
going
to
to be
me,
very
practical
practical.
mostly comes down to economical.
Right.
Is it,
Oh,
Well, that's,
go ahead, sorry.
nope, that's right.
But economical in what way? Are we looking to not spend money and use the land properly? Or are we looking to
Yeah,
make a profit?
yeah. It would not say to a prospective business owner, whoever's running the business, that it would go to make them money.
Okay,
There's a difference.
The feasibility would.
right, right,
It
yeah.
would not say whether a food hub would make them money. It would just say, these are the facilities. They might be appropriate for that. And then, somebody who wants to do a food hub would, like Dale saying, would come in and look at it, if it meets their needs.
Or-
They would do the due diligence.
Or there's an area where if they, and again, I don't know the answer to this question, but if someone wants to run a food hub, or let's change it, because I'm
Yeah.
done saying food hub for a
Okay.
second. Let's just say someone wants to raise pigs on the Carroll County farm as a personal business. They go out and spend, you can spend $7,000 or $8,000 on a tent-type structure for housing, plus you would need some pasture land and some
fencing.
water.
And fencing.
Right, well, yeah, all the things,
Yep.
but you could do that if you wanted to, if you thought you could make your money back and make money, that could be an option here.
Mhm.
So what we need to do before we send that out there is say to these two groups, is this something you would allow on Carroll County farm property? We believe it's a good use for the farm property and it would benefit the taxpayers and residents of Carroll County. So once we do that, and again, I feel like a broken record, but then we say, hey, we have X amount of land that if you, or not even X amount of land, you tell us how much you want and we'll tell you if that's okay. But we would have the answer already of how much land we'd be willing to give for any, whether it's growing, livestock, anything.
But you still have not done an inventory
No, but-
of what's here.
But can't we do, why do we need, we don't need a feasibility study to do
I
that.
didn't say we did, I just said
Okay,
we
yeah.
have to have it.
Yeah.
Right,
What do we have to offer?
right, yeah.
Now, Dale, I'm thinking, as a commissioner, if you came to me and you said, oh, look, this is the idea that 5 people came up with, 6 people came up with, and I said, okay, yeah, that sounds okay. You got any facts to back it up? And you say, oh, well, I talked to 2 or 3 farmers and they thought it was a good idea. I said, oh, well. Then I go before a committee headed by Mr. McConkey.
Oh, I remind you, I'm just one man.
He's going to start off with what were the facts, and I'm gonna say, well, Dale said he talked to 3 farmers. And you know, when I say that to him, that's going to lose all its validity.
Okay,
And by the
No,
time,
I would just like to add, Dale would be coming to you with a proposal that he has, he thinks it's a good idea, plus he's also willing to lease that land for X number of dollars.
no, I'm
We would
talking
be-
about,
We would be satisfied that he's willing to do that, and we might be willing to go
no,
forward.
what I'm saying is if we as a group,
Yep.
you come to the commissioners and say, look, the lands committee thinks this is a good idea. And I agree. And I said, well, where are your facts? And Dale says, oh, well, I talked to 3 farmers and they thought it was a good idea. And then I come to the delegation and say, well, the lands committee thinks this is a good idea. Will you give us permission to do it? You're gonna want more facts.
To which my point would be that the
Show me the
commissioners,
man that wants
in
to
their
do it.
step would not even bring it forward until the farmer or whomever it was had a proposal to bring forward. What's happened in the past that hasn't worked is that these proposals come to the commissioners, and the commissioners, by some majority vote, think that's a pretty good idea, haven't done any legwork, and then it comes to us, and then we say, well, where's the nuts and bolts? And then it turns out that we're the ones that end up discouraging the idea. The idea starts in this committee, what things work.
And that's what I'm
And
saying.
then it finds the people that want to do it, and then it comes through.
And I think the feasibility study is what gives the facts to the good ideas.
does common sense play into this at all?
See, I think that may be a part of the problem, because what sounds like a really good idea to you and me,
Mhm.
if we don't have if we haven't done our homework, if we don't have the facts to back it up,
By we, are you saying this committee, or are you saying the farmer that's coming to you with a
no,
proposal?
this committee.
This committee.
Okay,
This committee, if we haven't done our homework, then when we go to the commissioners without those facts, we lose validity. And even if you sneak through the commissioners, when we get to the delegation, they're gonna say, where are the facts? Now, that's what a feasibility study would give us, is the facts.
what,
Now, if you wanna do the homework, but remember, it's, as Sandy said, that homework is really time consuming.
Well, it's not only that, it's, I'm concerned, I think we could do the job measuring the buildings, you know? Whether they're structurally sound or not, I don't know if I can tell you
But
that.
someone could tell us that.
But somebody
I would
could
think
tell us
keep
that.
going.
But are they going to want to be paid?
Those people to do those audits,
Yeah.
I think there's enough town around that we could have that done.
All right. My
I think our
question,
building inspector, I think there's some other people that could help us.
my question is if the committee itself, the 6 of us, undertake to do this inventory and document and photograph everything and get all the experts in to do the work, will it have the same weight acceptance weight as a disinterested, neutral third party doing the same work?
I had asked that question early on. Whether
And
the commissioners in the commissioners in the delegation would accept work that we did and give it the same rating as if we brought in, quote, professionals to do the job.
Exactly.
yes, it's that acceptance.
I don't know.
And Dale, sometimes it doesn't make dollars and cents to do it the way I'm suggesting,
No,
but in order to get things accepted, you have to do it sometimes.
but here's my point.
Yep, go ahead, Dale.
Back to the farming, the pig, someone wants to be a pig farmer. They come into your commissioners meeting first, I would assume, correct, and say, hey, I hear there's land available. I was wondering if it was okay if I put together a business plan to share with you about how I would raise pigs on the Carroll County farm. Okay?
Mhm.
So they come to you and they do this great presentation, and we're gonna do this and this, and that's what they're going through, this, and this, there's stuff there. I'm just doing
Yeah.
the Cliff Note version. And they're willing to lease and just say we have water to where they wanna go, so they have the water, they're gonna put up all the fence, they're gonna do all this, they're gonna do all this, they're gonna pay this. We've already decided as a committee and gotten permission from the commissioners and the delegation that raising pigs on the Carroll County farm is an acceptable practice. So if they have a good business plan and no money is coming from the taxpayers, and they're willing to do all the things they need to do to raise pigs, what facts is a feasibility study gonna tell us or tell the delegation that would sway their decision one way or another?
I don't think the feasibility study would say anything about the specific thing about raising pigs.
Feasibility study would say, you have X number of acres of hay field. You have X number of acres of possible pasture. And then it would say, on the possible pasture, you might want to raise, I don't know, ruminants during the summer and feed them hay in the winter. Or that would be.
Or you could pasture swine.
That would be about the extent that I would expect the feasibility study to go. To say whether you'd be better off raising geese than pigs, I wouldn't expect the feasibility study to do that. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you're crazy. But the thing is, again, looking at our mission statement, it's the optimal use. And if somebody came to me, say a group of farmers came to this committee, and they said, we want to do this with the land, and we're going to require 10 acres to do that. I wouldn't know, without any sort of background, getting the due diligence and the background information, whether that was the optimal use or not. What if all of a sudden, within the course of a couple of weeks, we get 3 different groups coming before us, and they all want 3 different uses for the acreage?
For the same exact acreage?
It could be. I mean, I don't know. And Allison, we're sitting here now, and maybe the commissioners and the delegation are looking to us to say, okay, you give us a heads up, which one would you recommend? I'm speaking just for me, I'm sitting there, and I don't have a clue which one of those would be the most optimal use for the property. I don't know.
You can say optimal use, but there's gonna be an opinion. There isn't a list of optimal uses that, I mean,
Yes, there is. There's an optimal use of farm based on the soil as to what would be the optimal use of that particular piece of property.
so you're telling, And again, I don't
That's
know,
from-
because I've never
that's
been
from
involved in a
the
feasibility
Extension
study.
Service, I believe.
So that feasibility study is gonna tell us that if we have a guy that's coming with chickens and a guy that's coming with geese, that feasibility study will tell us, wow, that soil right there is better for the chickens than it is the geese?
No, they'll tell us about fowl. I don't expect them to get much more. They might say that some of the land is better for pasturing fowl than it would be for pasturing pigs, because it's all rocky and the pigs will dig up the rocks and the fowls won't. But
And
I
that
don't-
feasibility study is gonna tell us that?
I don't know. It would tell you about the soil content.
I think it would depend the depth that we want the feasibility study to go into. But
But you,
If you looked at, and believe me, I'm not questioning here.
You can
but-
question all you
but-
want.
But
I mean,
did you look at those two PowerPoints that Sullivan County sent us? I mean, they listed different things here. And this was, but things that they felt, take a look at this, you know, this seems worthwhile. And what they did is, they talked about the demographics. Demographics are important. The aging population, the income-aging population, what some of your markets could be. They're not saying any of this is gonna be successful or not successful, because in the final analysis, it comes down to the energy and the innovation and so forth of the person doing the work. But what they're saying is, you know, based on all the information that we could gather, we think this agricultural farming activity would be more successful than this one, based on all the data we've looked at.
Did the study for Cheshire and or Sullivan, what was the question that they were asked, the people doing the feasibility
I
study?
don't-
What question were they asked? Because
think
that is going to
I think the best
dictate
use,
the direction they take.
best uses of the property.
Great
Mark.
thought.
Okay.
Oh,
Dale, I love listening to you. I honestly do. You have production here on this property right now that yields hay and it yields blueberries. Why don't we start with something we already have? Why don't we decide whether and we make a conscious effort that we open it up for outside agency, co-op, something to use to come in to take over, something simple. Hey, we know we produce hay.
But is it the optimal use for that land?
What I'm saying is the first item,
Sorry, it's in my hand.
it's the first item that we have that's out there.
It's a great plan.
We own barns. We have a barn to put hay into. We have tractors to do that production. So what's the process? Do we see if someone wants to come in and do all that, or does someone come in and say, I want use of your barn, I want use of your equipment, and we figure that out?
Great plan.
Okay, so we do that, and we have all this, we have, how many blueberries? We have an acre, 2 acres of blueberries, whatever we have. I can't open up a map
about
right now and tell you.
$400 worth a year, I guess.
But there's,
But there is an item right there.
Yeah.
What else do they need from us to do that, to take over that blueberry? And then we still have all kinds of land all the way around us, but we get this committee off the dime and we start doing something. We also then inventory our buildings, we get the building inspectors to come in, we get some farmers to come in, like, build that, you know, I look at a couple of those buildings, the best thing to do is tear it down and sell it for barn wood. You know, so, but does that make sense that somebody could use that?
He's
Then
not
I-
talking
then I-
about the annex, so he's talking
No,
about
I'm
the
talking
barns.
about,
some of
I'm
the
talking
barns.
about the extraneous buildings that are out there, the old cow barn. You know, there's a bunch of buildings that are sitting out there. Are they even worth keeping? You know, and you inventory that and you find those things. But we start with a couple projects. Now, the naysayers would say, geez, we've advertised it. No one wants to come in and cut hay here. Well, that was the commissioners going out once or twice to do that. If this group were to say, here's the product, and we recognize when we come out, It might bring another group of people. And if it doesn't, if that can't bring out interest, if we can't show that you could come in here and take $12,000 or $20,000 off the land in hay, and everyone says, I don't want anything to do with it, then I think you've wasted your time on doing anything else, other than breaking up the land into plots and come take that portion as a trial too. And maybe you do that, you come out and you do that. But, you know, you tell me that people want 5-year, 7-year leases, whatever, 10-year leases, I don't know. We go out there and we make that suggestion to do that. You know, you tell me that, and I'm not a farmer, so stop me anywhere here. You know, that I have to, if I'm gonna have fowl or pigs or ducks or anything, I have to have fencing. Well, I'm not gonna take a plot of land as big as this table for 1 year if I've got to put up fencing and everything else. Why don't we start with we identify 10 acres here, 10 acres there, and then, you know, it shows some interest happening in the property. We have this building, you know, and we have 2 wings over there that are still on there that might be the greatest building for cold storage there is. But, you know, until we identify it, we don't know. But I think we should come out with a product, and I think hay is something that's easy to do.
The only problem is, we've got to be able to balance with income, the loss of income.
Of course.
From the hay. So we've got to make sure that whoever's going to take the field and do it is going to supplement so that we have a balanced budget.
Sure, but if someone's gonna use our machinery, we're going to somehow reap a benefit from it. Or we're gonna sell it to them, and we're gonna be the bank, but we're gonna do something. There's all sorts of models we could do. If someone wants to use our barn, we're not gonna give them the barn for free, but we're gonna get some stipend per bale.
But we
But
have to
that-
guarantee it's dry.
We have a perfectly good dry building. Perfectly good dry building for hay.
That we're storing equipment.
Yeah, well, you fill it with hay almost all the year, and the only equipment you got in there is your hay producing equipment. So put it out there.
Okay, now we have some, like.
But I can tell you that I don't want anybody to think that $20,000 on hay production is a pure $20,000 to the county. So if we're pulling back, I don't know what the number is, 25 cents a bale or whatever, but we're not supplying the labor, we could be well ahead of it. We could be helping our community.
Well, what I was going to say is, look, we have the blueberries, which are being very sorely neglected.
Right, so
They need a fence to keep the bear out, because the bear for some reason likes blueberries.
if I give you those blueberry fields for the next 5 years or 7 years, you might find it advantageous to have your bear dog out there with you on, you know, those seasons. You might then want to invest on putting your own fencing in there.
Well, definitely, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So when we look at leasing something, we tried, well, we made an effort last year to lease the lower field as a pasture. The lower field going down.
That needed to be cut and all sorts of work to be done.
Right, but we were willing to do it long term. But things like that, sometimes I think, I'm almost 100% sure, had we had a small fence around that and a small building, we could have had people with goats in there.
Wasn't water an issue in that field too?
We
But
own the water system that goes right by there.
Well, I understand that, but that's.
I mean, that can be, that I don't think is a major, I think that could have been corrected. But also the tank waterings and things. So, but that's why I'm thinking, if we're gonna do it in pieces, because we have 3 or 4 pasture areas that could be pieced out. And the same way with the hay, there's more than one hay field. That, and the blueberries is a piece, and plots is a piece. If we're gonna piece it out, it's gonna be altogether different than looking at a 503C, like you were talking about, that would come and take the whole piece, and then they would do whatever they do.
But if I could, let's go back to the blueberries and let's go to your lower field.
Right.
The lower field, we heard needed a fence, it had needed a well, it was a piece of neglected property that needed to be hogged down there to make better.
Well, that's why they wanted goats in it, too.
Those are a lot of unknowns. The blueberries, I know I have 100 blueberry bushes, I know where it is. The hay field, I know that hay is there. So those are commodities that someone that's interested, they can identify, and then they can go, geez, you know, the bears are a problem, what do I have to do for the bears? I'm just saying, you take something that you don't want to go downhill anymore, you don't want your blueberries to go down anymore. But I can tell you, I don't want to pay people in our county to go out there and maintain those. But I gotta believe there's a fledgling blueberry farmer out there that would love to take care of the mulching and everything else that's done, so identify it. And it's just a little piece of the whole project, and then this whole thing evolves around it. But you show some activity, you show good faith, the commissioners are happy, the delegation's happy.
Oh, that's why we started with the trails, because that was something that we
Yep,
could
and
all
I-
agree on, and
Yep.
we're going to do the present, or the committee's going to do the presentation on that. What did I tell you? 28, little 11 o'clock. But I agree, but I just am trying to establish that we need to know, if we're going to do it piecemeal, it's one project.
I'm gonna talk in
If
two
we-
little pieces.
If we're going to do the whole piece, it's a different, it's like we could do the sapping, the maple, all of the maple in the woods area be one separate entity. But if you have a 503C come in, they're going to want to have some of those maple trees.
But if you, but your group that's gonna come in, and they're gonna raise money, and they're gonna become the conservancy of the whole property, they're not gonna put their money together in a year. I'll bet it could take 2 years, I'll bet it could take 3 years. But it would be so beneficial to show them that something's working on your property.
I have a question.
Go deal.
How long would it take to get an answer? You might be able to tell me right now. You're talking blueberry field, the blueberry crop we have here. How long would it take to get an answer whether the county would be willing to lease that portion of the operation to an individual?
Ed, the 19th, what day do we meet? It would happen from our point that quick.
Okay, so the 19th.
Hmm.
So
That's a month.
within a month.
Within almost any
Well,
time.
see,
if you had that
I'm hesitant
proposal.
because I don't know a thing about blueberries.
No,
The
no, no,
only
I'm not,
thing-
you don't need to.
Well, yes, I do, because the only thing I know is that it has to be fenced, because the bear's been bothering it.
But that's not the
That's
county's
not your
job.
problem.
Well, no, but we'd have to have some requirements, if somebody's going to rent it.
We
and
don't-
how long they would rent it for, and I think there are sprays and stuff that have to be used, but I don't know.
Okay, let's say
If
I
we don't
come,
want to rent it for 3 years and go out and have a bunch of dead blueberries.
when's your next commissioners meeting?
Wednesday.
Okay, let's say I come in Wednesday. I have this really great Dale Drew Blueberry Production t-shirt made, a hat, I come in, I'm like, I would wondering if the commissioners of the Carroll County are interested in leasing their blueberry making, growing
They're blueberry patch.
blueberry patch to me for 1 year with an option for 5 more following. I will do all the upgrades that I see necessary. I come up with this great business plan, and I'm willing to pay X amount per quart or pint of blueberry to the county if you let me run, if you let me take over that business. How long would it take, if they're the 19th? How
I
long?
don't think we want you paying by the quart or by the.
Well, whatever it
I think we
is.
want you paying one chunk each year.
Okay, so I come to you and I say, how much would you charge me to take over your blueberry patch?
Okay.
How long would it take me to get an answer back on that? or this committee says, are you interested in leasing the blueberry patch? How long will it take to get an answer back to this committee whether you're willing or looking, offering to do that?
I would almost say that day, but it might take a week.
Okay, so I think Mark has a great point, not blowing, I know.
that-
So yeah, it would show like, instead, I mean, we can talk about this all day long,
Sure can.
but,
And we don't need a feasibility study.
Not
No,
for
we
that.
don't.
no.
We don't need it.
Exactly.
But you might end up with a success story.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I would like to make a motion, if I could, to ask the commissioners if they would be willing to lease the blueberry patch to a private citizen or farmer or company, whatever word you want to throw in there, Susan, to make me sound
It's
smart.
supposed to be a quote. so-
Can we restrict it to Carroll County residents?
No. Well, actually you can, because you're not taking federal money. But why would you? Why do you care? And let's go one point further. The delegation has already suggested in the past to the commissioners to lease blueberries and hay. So we've already got one piece taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we could confirm that at our 19th meeting.
So yeah, do I sound smart or not?
Not yet.
No, I don't sound smart yet? Thanks.
Keep working on it,
What did I say
Jill.
so far?
I need a motion to ask the commissioners if they would be willing to lease to a private citizen.
Or entity.
Or
entity.
Or-
Or business entity.
Yeah.
The blueberry patch located on Carroll County farmlands.
Okay.
I'd expand it to hayfield production.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too.
Well, can
Well,
we,
if you're going to piecemeal, let's piecemeal it.
Okay, all right.
the hayfields,
We can have another motion for the hay.
Well, that-
well, no, in my head, there might be a better use for the hayfield than hay, depending on where it's located on the property,
Well,
depending on what it's near.
let's finish this motion.
Well, okay, let's stick with the blueberries.
Yeah, no,
No, let's
I'm
finish
with,
this
yeah, I'm with
motion,
you on
Okay.
that.
Because I
Let's
think
stick
in
with
the
blueberries.
motion, you should have yearly rent and the length of the
Lease.
lease, what the length.
In the motion?
Wouldn't that be something that the commissioners would determine, and, I mean, there's gonna be a lease coming out of this thing. I mean, you come forward to the commissioners and say, gee, I'd like to lease the blueberry patch. Okay, now there's gonna have to be a lease here, and the commissioners would then negotiate with you the term of the lease, what would be expected and so forth, what the remuneration of the county would be, but all you're doing is expressing an interest and saying, okay, now we'll work on a lease.
I agree.
Lease land for compensation or something. I don't think you need to identify right up the front that you're looking for a yearly thing. It might be such a fledgling idea the first year that, let's say, perhaps production of blueberries is down because it hasn't been mulched, it hasn't been cared for. That in the first year of that, we very well might accept a price per quart or something else. We might. We might, it would allow the business owner to come in. Don't stick your tongue out at me.
No, I'm biting it off. I'm biting the end of it right off.
I'm saying that right now, we're being told that we are not caring for our blueberry bushes right now.
Right.
It's not being mowed, it's not being this, so.
We were told on the tour that the blueberries are not getting enough attention as they should be getting.
Correct.
That was spoken to us. So, yeah.
So I'm just saying that you don't have to say, you've got to pay a certain amount of money for the year. There might be some middle ground there, and you let the business owner decide what that is.
But it's taking $400 out of our income.
My God.
How much does it cost?
Seriously?
Seriously?
It costs us more than $400 to get that $400.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't
Of course
cost
it
anything.
does.
People come and pick it. I sat and took the money. You guys didn't pay me.
But how
to
much
sit
are you
and take the
paying,
money.
how much are you paying Carroll County employees to
What?
take care of the blueberry patch
They're
now?
not.
They aren't. They're not doing anything.
They're not doing anything to it at all?
I don't believe so. They don't have enough.
There's something happening. Somebody's mowing through there, something's happening. For $400, Madam Chairman,
You'll rent it.
I don't care.
You would get.
I don't care. Someone want to lease that whole thing from us for 400? Do you think somebody will rent that whole thing for $400?
Well,
No, but they might.
But is
for
that the
100.
question?
They might for 100.
Time.
Take it for
I know.
100.
Go ahead, Sandy.
There is something to be said, though, for having a piece rate. There are organizations in this state that lease state land or counties, city land for hay production. And they pay that particular governmental unit, whatever it is, so much per bale. Plus, they pay for all the soil amendments and the soil testing, and they keep it mowed around the edges as a condition of their lease.
And if I'm a blueberry farmer that has this brand new little patch, and I want to make money selling blueberries, I'm gonna make a little nest for each blueberry so the birds don't eat them. I'm gonna care for them, if any good blueberry farmer I would think would do, to maximize their profits. So even if they only do $200, and they say after the first year, they're like, well, it's just not worth it for me. Look at what they've done to that blueberry patch, and now it's like this, holy moly cannoli.
It might take them 2 years to bring it back.
Right, you know what I mean though, but they're gonna take care of that thing like it's a little baby. Hopefully.
Are
If
we
they-
micromanaging this thing?
Yes.
You made a motion that basically, if I remember correctly, and was seconded.
Was it seconded? Hasn't been seconded yet.
Okay, well, who's gonna second it?
That- oh, you're the-
All right, so seconded, okay.
Now we can discuss
To
it.
basically allow the commissioners to basically to lease out the blueberry patch.
The motion was to ask if they would.
Yeah, to ask if they would.
If they would, okay, all right. So, this other stuff, well, what are we
And
gonna
also,
charge?
what
Who's gonna
about
be
the
doing what?
hayfields?
That to me
But
would.
separate.
That would be part of the lease arrangement, that the commissioners would be making with the person, what is expected of that person to do. The length of the lease, what they're expecting this person to perform and do, to me, is that our job here? Basically, it's.
I think it might be.
It's gonna
because
be.
attempts in the past
Yeah.
to just turn this blindly over to the commissioners to then advertise it haven't gotten you anywhere. So I think we need to massage it to a certain point and use the power of this, what's our group name? I love that. Ed, you could give me that CC something?
Yeah.
Carroll
Land advisement.
But we have no ulterior motives, and
Well, the one thing though that Mark says is good, because in such a lease, and I don't care if it's for the blueberries or for the hayfields, you will, or at least if I was on it, I would want to put in conditions.
On
that
both sides.
On both sides, that as
Otherwise,
a
we
county,
can't-
this is what
we
we
can't have
expect of
any
those people that are leasing.
Who can't have any conditions?
the county,
What do you
Yes,
mean?
we can, on the, how the land is used.
how the land is, how the renter, leasee is
Right,
renting.
and
using
that's
it,
what I'm
yes.
speaking on, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But,
Not that I have to wear Nike sneakers when I'm walking on the grass, but
Or you're gonna hold each other harmless if something were to happen on the property and so forth. the
And that you
simple
will
things.
or will not use certain kinds of herbicides, pesticides.
Yeah.
Best management practices.
You want-
and
Yeah.
sure.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
All that stuff is right there. And we can get the information as to what the production over the past 5 years has been of that blueberry patch.
Yes.
yes.
That data should be available.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm.
Just as the hay production should be, that data should also be available.
Yes, I
Yep.
have a 5-year thing, I've done for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
So, instead of a feasibility study, we think we need to just do our own inventory and bring in experts where necessary.
Let's vote on this blueberry thing first.
Okay, yeah, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
No matter how much you yell, it's
Ask
only
for
one
those,
vote.
ask for those opposed.
Are those
Well, I'm
opposed?
thinking I should recuse myself because I'm one of the commissioners. I'm one of the people you're gonna present this to.
You're abstaining.
Well, I was gonna, isn't it recuse, isn't that the right word? Maybe abstain.
Yeah,
Abstain.
okay. All right.
Did we just do something?
Yeah, we did.
Wow, that's great news.
Okay.
When did we start this?
So
I
five
expect
to
you to
one.
come
with
in
one
for the
abstention.
lease the day after.
5-1.
Not-
The vote was 5-1 with one abstention.
Um,
501, not 5-1.
Okay, 5-0-1 with one abstention. I said, yeah,
right, 'cause I don't even have
yeah, okay. All right.
Kind of
We'll-
got
Good
to
idea,
do it as
Mark.
one
Thank you.
piece.
We're
and I
we're
suppose
on a
that's-
roll here.
That's a
Let's-
Piecemeal is
let's-
fine, piecemeal is fine, one piece.
But,
Well, you need to save your blueberry trees, whatever they are. And this might be the way to save.
did you just say
your
trees?
Bushes. High bush, low
These
bush.
these
I
are
don't
really
know
high
which
bush
it is.
blueberries.
Oh, my gosh.
I deal with things when they go in the ground.
Yeah, I got you.
We don't want to talk about what I
You
do.
know what's going to happen, this particular meeting, that film is going to become a comedy.
Last week wasn't very funny. You guys missed it.
Yeah,
Do we want to basically follow the same track with the hayfield now as well there?
well, you know what we
As Mark
have
said,
more
the blueberries and
important.
the hay, there is a history. You have some sense of the revenue they generate, and to quote, this is picking the low fruit. This is easy picking. And so do we want to basically have another motion basically doing the same thing with the hayfield?
We have something more important than the hayfield that needs to be addressed and probably quite soon, and that is the coverall.
The who?
What?
The coverall, what do you call it?
The high tunnel?
Yeah, the high tunnel. The high tunnel is empty and there's nothing in it, and that is a very valuable asset.
Isn't UNH doing the quad retention, doing tomatoes in there?
That was in the summertime. They don't-
They're not doing it, oh, that was a
they out of
one-shot
there
deal?
now?
Yeah, they're.
So
they're
there's
not
no
doing
one
any more
has that right
now.
They're not doing anything at all with it?
I don't believe so.
Wasn't
Well,
Olivia doing some research down there?
Yeah, but I think that's over. I
Okay.
think now their stuff is outside. But I can check, but I would think that
Then I
that would
would
be.
certainly think that we would, same for the high tower, high tunnel.
I tell them.
Played football.
I'd like to make a motion that repeats the last motion, except that it replaces blueberry bushes with hayfields and adds the existing high tunnel.
I think that's gonna be two separate things.
It'd be two separate economic activities, I'll say.
They wouldn't necessarily lease them together.
No,
No, no, no.
But
they
basically
wouldn't
just
have to.
allows,
just would-
right,
would-
right.
I thought what we were
It's covering
doing-
two things with one motion.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I think that the hayfields you need to understand are not in the best of, a couple of them are not in the best of conditions.
And that will
Same.
dictate who's gonna take it over and what they wanna do.
Or if someone's gonna take it over.
And that may be,
Did I give you
the
a
milkweed
Susan?
has to be gotten out of there.
I think so.
Milkweed has to be
But
out.
say if somebody wants to do that, and we bring them in at an introductory rate to do that for us, and they're maintaining, it's to their advantage to be rid of milkweed.
Yeah.
It's not to my advantage to pay my tax money to do that. But it
Well, the
might be,
return for it is
it might be.
good.
But again, same with the blueberry bushes. If someone comes in and takes all the milkweed out and then decides, not enough in it for me, our fields are better because there's no more milkweed in them. Sorry.
No, it's just that that's been a problem and it's just,
Take your farmer hat off.
that would be part of the requirement would be they'd have to do something about the milkweed because that's, with the milkweed coming in the way it is and in some of them now the bushes are coming in that it needs to be addressed.
What if on the farm, on
Yes, I'll
the
take the farm
hayfield,
off.
on the hayfield side of it, that field with the milkweed coming in, someone says, the animals I wanna put there, doesn't matter if they eat milkweed or not, cause it's not gonna hurt them, and I wanna use that as a grazing field.
Because the milkweed goes to seed and the wind blows it into the hayfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just,
Animals just
so,
don't eat the milkweed, that's what happens. It has to be, be.
but could we use that field, my point is, could we use that field for something other than a hayfield? Could it
No,
be a?
because it's gonna contaminate the hayfield. All this milk, all the milkweed everywhere on this property needs to be annihilated. An example is up in West Ossipee. There was a field up there beside.
Oh, it's horrible. I know exactly.
And it
what you
only
mean.
took a few years.
Yeah,
It only took a few years. And I believe they sprayed it with an herbicide this year, and I'm curious to see the spring, how much good it did or didn't do or whatever. But it spreads fast. I mean, my own fields at my house, my neighbors have some, and I have begged them to please annihilate it. But they think it's so beautiful because the butterflies come, and what happens is the wind blows it right into my field.
yeah.
So that's one thing that would have to be.
So in the
I was
hayfield
hoping we
then,
could get rid of it before we talked about this.
Or,
would that be a condition on leasing the hayfield out? Would that be a condition on there that they'd have to eliminate the milkweed?
or how many, let's say, for example, if we had 2 hayfields,
Correct.
you lease one of them for no cost if they eliminate the milkweed from the other one.
Look
Now
at you
we're
thinking
talking
outside the box, Sandy.
$4,000 instead of
So what?
$400.
So what? You get rid of the milkweed.
Even, I'm
It
not
may
sure
take
it's
2 or 3
$4,000 priority.
It may
to
take
other
2 to
people.
3 years, though.
Has that impacted the price that the county gets for the bales of hay?
Yeah.
If
Oh,
it's
yeah,
loaded with
sure.
milkweed?
It becomes unusable.
Okay, all right.
But if there, how many hayfields are there? 2, 3, 4? So the point is, we have hayfield A, B, and C are good.
Yeah.
D is bad. So, and you feel that D is gonna ruin A, B, and C.
Yes.
We write a contract for A, B, and C, which are the better fields, and we hope to grab from that revenue this year enough money to pay to take care of that. Once we've taken care of that, then we should have A, B, C, D, and E field next year that we can work with.
That would make far more sense.
From the delegation's
Mhm.
point of view, that is a win-win. I'm not paying for employees to be out there. I'm not hoping people from the jail are gonna show up today to do it. I'm not worrying about all those things. I'm not worrying about maintenance, gasoline, diesel, everything else. And I've now allowed some people, some farmers, some producers, Agway, I don't care, they're now keeping our property.
But is the delegation going to spend the money and have the workers go and take care of field B and E to have the
Why don't we have the farmer do that?
milkweed in?
We don't know that because we don't have a proposal to take over those fields. What I'm telling you is, if right now, it's costing us money to do that activity. There is some translated money that's coming in here of income. But that income is also at the detriment of something else that could be being done right now. So if farming, we all know that our land is very important to us. We'd like to have a history that moves forward. Maybe someday there's livestock and there's farming going on. We all want that. Everybody wants that. The delegation wants that and everything else. So if someone can come in and take care of this, and we use our people for a better use somewhere else, and if this is a problem and this takes care of that problem, delegation's all over that.
So you would want the farmer renting the fields to take care of them? I'm not understanding what
Either
you're
the
saying.
farmer's going to do that as part of his lease, or we're gonna make something. We're turning over 20, in the way the county thinks, we have a $20,000 asset over here, which is our hayfield this year.
Is that a true number?
There's
30,000 was the
30,000?
income. 30,000 was the income, but then from the income, you'd have to take the
So
expenses.
net was 20 grand?
No, we don't, no,
Oh,
we can't tell
okay.
you what net is. We can tell you what the gross was.
Okay, $30,000. That's a gross.
And that was because, I don't know, there was over 500 bales, I think, that was contaminated with milkweed, so it went from $5 a bale to $3 a bale.
But still, they don't, it's an income stream, there's an income stream.
Right, no, I'm following.
I sell gasoline,
Yeah.
and if I sell $1 million worth of gasoline in a year, I have a new car, my people are all paid for, and every distributor wants to work with me. If I don't do 1 million gallons, I'm not that guy. And I have to think whether, my long-range goal, how long I want to be selling gasoline. So what I'm saying is, it's a volume. So if it's $30,000, the farmer's got to make his money, or the production person, whoever it is. But the county should be able to get enough out of that. If we identify that there's a problem, we should be able to get enough out of there to at least take care of what that problem is.
And the delegation would give us the money to do that.
They might if we have this part taken care of. I can't answer what it's gonna be,
Right. I
we're
understand,
dealing, but
but-
unless we make a real good faith effort to put this out there and let the public know that you really have free reign to do this. But, and then it'll make, I keep pointing to Dale, because he looks like my only hay farmer here, so. And Dale's gonna say to me, this makes sense to me, and I'm willing to do this for that. And then if it doesn't make sense to us, we don't do it.
If we're going to do this piecemeal, then I think we ought to have a map with a plan that shows what can be pasture, what can be hayfield, what can be our mess we're gonna keep.
We can do that, but I think we're only dealing with 2 things right now, 3 things. A high tunnel, hay fields, and blueberries.
And what about the pasture areas?
Pastures, we're gonna bite off too much in the first time.
Because those pasture areas are growing up.
Well, are the hayfields and the pasture area the same areas?
No, no,
Okay,
no.
all right, then.
I do know
No,
that.
the pasture areas are areas that years ago when they used to have cows here.
Okay.
They used to have beef cattle.
Is that a milkweed problem in the pasture area as well?
But that I cannot tell you. I would expect it would be if it's downwind of where the milkweed is.
Okay, let's just focus, to me, the high tunnel is a no-brainer, but the hayfield seems to be generating some questions here and comments. All right, how many hayfields do we have?
We just said 5.
Can we
Say
get
5?
a definitive answer on how many and the acreage
Yes,
of
we
them
got the picture.
before next Friday?
Got it right here.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Get it, Susan, get it.
Hey,
I have a question while Susan's
I
looking.
have one more question I'd like to have answered, so we can get it on
What
record.
is that thing up there?
Well, it's up by the
Are we going
town.
to do the inventory ourselves and document our existing resources, assets?
I think for these 3 things, we can do that.
For
I
those
think
3 things.
for these
What
three
about
things.
for anything else?
Overgrown field.
So that would be.
We're gonna do it ourselves, or we're gonna need to send it out to have somebody else do it?
Should we go through the matrix item by item to see what we're
I'm
thinking?
just
We
asking
get
because.
too many things on the table.
No, not right now.
Yeah.
To answer Sandy's questions.
Asking because
It shows here pasture.
it's
Or just the.
No,
20
it's just-
minutes to
just the
5.
fields.
This field.
We've got a field trip next week, and then there's 2 more weeks
Is that one?
That's the
for
blueberries.
something else in this month.
There's one.
I'm just trying to find out.
Should we
Okay.
take a vote on whether we want to, I agree with Sandy, we should decide whether we want to do the feasibility study or not. Because that will decide what we're doing,
For the rest of the month.
right. And let's remember, okay, good, yeah, I'll too much,
We need to
Yes, I agree
address
with
that
Sandy.
motion.
Oh, what, the
But then-
hayfields and the
Yeah.
high tunnel? Yes, sorry, I forgot that.
There's 8 fields. But I think.
How many hayfields do we have, and do we know the acreage of each hayfield?
It's-
There's 8 fields.
There's 8 fields that
But
we
not
collect.
all of them are currently hayfields.
Yeah.
Okay, how many are we saying are hayfields? Is it?
4, I believe.
4 or 5?
4, is that?
5?
The ones across the street up by the tower, that one it was a hayfield, but
It needs
it's,
to be
and it was
established.
Okay, and how many basically is the milkweed a problem in?
well, it's really bad in one and it's.
In spreading to others,
Yeah.
but there's one that's really bad?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we won't know till spring about the others. comes up, depending on what, how much seeded in, we don't know.
Is 6,000 bales a legit number on hay production here? Ballpark?
I just gave you that report. Remember how many it was?
Because at 30
But
grand.
we can pull that together, report's already done.
Okay. I just went with a $30,000 gross at $475 a bale. It's about 6,300 bales.
It's $5 a bale. We get more than the general public does.
I paid $475 a bale.
We charge $5.
Depending on what your bail is, it could be less, and that's
Mulch.
the,
Okay.
You're also
and
correct.
if you figure out our delivery service,
Well, I picked it up.
no.
I did.
Really?
No
Pick up
joke,
on
yeah.
that? Really?
Well, no, when we deliver it, we charge $5.50. $5.75, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's $475 a bale and $1 per bale delivered.
75 cents. No, we don't pay $4.75. We charge $5 a bale. When I went over here and I bought hay, I paid $5 a bale.
When did you buy it?
A month ago.
Okay.
I paid $5 a bale. If they were gonna deliver it to my house, it's $5.75.
Okay.
Question. The original committee, basically, we did the tour, and we get down to the barn, the hayfield, the barn with the hay there. Someone asked what the county was getting per bale, and I can't remember the price they threw out, but the comment seemed to be, well, gee, that the market is getting more than that. And I understood the commissioners to say, what wasn't you, Amanda, that basically someone came in and said, okay, I'll give you X amount of dollars per bale, and they were selling it. So it was not reflected in the market prices as the market changed. They were locked in on a price. At least that was the sense that I had. Did I misread that?
That may have been correct, but we've always tried to be a little above the market.
Okay, all right.
But I don't believe we're above the mark. Let's start with what the farmer wants to know, that wants to hay. He wants to know how many bales of hay you
Yep.
put out of here this year, how many last year, the year before.
And how
Actually,
much
he
does it
wants
cost
to
you to
know-
fertilize the fields?
Actually, he wants to know what the tonnage is.
Right.
Because-
Whatever. So we need to provide that. Then we
Yeah.
need to show that these are the 4 fields on
Yeah.
a map, these are the fields that they're presently using, and these are the fields that produce that. He can drive up here, he can take a look
Yeah.
at it.
And it would also be good to be able to provide a quality test of what nutrients are in the hay, what quality hay you have, which is
Yeah, that would be.
$25 to get done.
Which
That'd
has
be
never
very
been
good.
done here.
Right.
Hmm?
That's
Yeah,
part of the
that is-
inventory.
It's never been done here?
I don't believe.
You've never done a nutrient test of the hay itself? Okay.
So anyways, we
Yes.
could put this
As
together.
little money as
Yeah.
possible has been
Okay.
spent on the hay operation in the past 6 years. Okay. The only thing they do is they put wood ash on the fields, that's all.
And no fertilizer?
But we pay for fertilizer.
Wood ash. Well, it's a special name, but that's what it is.
Okay.
So I think if we can pull that together, we know how big our blueberry plot is, we show that. We know our high tunnel, it's there.
What's it-
You know what the
Dimensions?
dimensions are, and I think there's water available in it? Was it
Those
just
we can-
outside?
that can be pulled together quickly, because
Yeah.
we received a grant for the high tunnel, so that should have all of our specs for how big it is. We snap a couple pictures of it, snap a couple pictures in front, we answer whether we have water, we don't have water, and how much water volume can come out of that, that's pretty straightforward.
It's easy. Yeah, you can start putting together that inventory information, that's good.
Should we vote on that
Well, now, wait a
motion?
minute. I hate to tell you
I would love
this.
that.
What your motion was to ask the commissioners if they would be willing to lease. If they're willing to lease, I'm sure they're going to want to pull together all of that information
Yeah.
to set it up for the lease.
Well,
Well,
they don't have.
they or
don't
the
have time.
committee on their behalf.
They don't have time to do that. Well, that would be possibly that we come in and help
Yeah.
with that. We can come in and help with that.
We-
You have to make a decision
But
whether.
I get paid a lot of money to do that.
The commissioners need to say, we are willing to consider this. And we need to know yes or no. If they say no, then we're done.
Yeah,
If they say yes,
then it goes to you.
well, then it comes to us back again. They're willing to do it. So are they, well, then we're gonna need some facts. The high tunnel's a piece of cake. We've got a lot of time that happens right now until growing season.
Well, actually,
That-
growing season is starting right now. My friend.
Those high tunnels would come
Yeah.
into handy.
Well, they are, but I'm just saying, we, our own personnel
Oh,
here,
got it.
could pull that together. We
The
snap a
same
couple
with the blueberry
pictures.
bushes.
The blueberry bushes,
Or
same thing.
trees.
It won't take more, if it took a half a day to pull that together. So, and that'd be general information, and then the commissioners are gonna have to okay the lease. But we could help gather that information. I would help gather that information. I found a project that out. It's simple.
We
It's
could work
simple.
on that together.
Whoa.
It's a togetherness project.
But we've got to find out if they're willing to do it. Now, the question is how much they're gonna make and we don't know that yet. Are you willing to do it?
I'm with you.
And that's the motion.
The motion, we need to vote on the motion.
I
I'm
know,
sorry.
but that's
We
the
need a
motion.
second.
That's the motion that we're gonna be voting
And a
on.
motion, vote.
Before we do
Susan,
that,
what?
I provided the motion, somebody's got to second it.
Yeah,
we also want to add.
You want me to read it back?
For Susan.
okay, Susan is gonna be reading the motion back.
I'm gonna have to go back
The
and-
hay equipment.
Okay,
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it
We
to
don't
get
have
it
to say
exactly,
anything.
but.
okay.
So Sandy wanted me to take Dale's motion, which was to lease land for compensation to a private citizen or business entity.
The blueberries.
The blueberry
Yeah.
field,
Yeah, that
located
was-
on Carroll County
yeah.
farmlands. So I will replace blueberry bushes with hay fields and high tunnel,
As
Yes.
separate motions.
separate motions.
You-
Yeah.
Two separate ones?
Yeah, I think they should be separate.
They can decide whether they want, and
Yeah.
the high tunnel should be a separate one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I-
So that's-
Because I got a
Yeah,
feeling
that's
all of
right.
a sudden there's gonna be a lot of interest show up on the high tunnel.
So let's start with the hay field. Sandy made that motion.
Yeah.
I'll make the next one too.
Well, let's vote on the first one first.
Well, let's-
Any further discussion on the hayfields?
I need a second before.
Second.
Okay. All right.
Amanda, did you want to add something in there about the hayfield equipment too?
Well, I think it might
Or
make
that be
leasing the hay
separate?
equipment easier if we had equipment that they could use.
Would that be
They
a
could rent
separate-
or Purchase rental or something.
Well,
Separate article?
I think that'll come out after, we don't have, we're asking the commissioners permission so that this can be done, and we can lease it. How the hay happens,
How it's produced.
how it's produced is.
That can be decided after. If the guy wants to, or girl wants to bring in their own equipment or use your own.
Okay, I want to regurgitate a comment that I thought Mark said. Basically, okay, we're going to be presenting the commissioners with three motions here. One motion asking them or allowing them or permitting them, whatever, to lease the hayfield.
No, no,
No.
no. The motion was to ask, would the commissioners be willing to lease? Would the commissioners be willing to lease? Because that comes under the commissioner's jurisdiction
Okay,
as to
that's what
whether
they
to
said.
lease.
Blueberries,
Blueberries.
The blueberries, the
hayfield,
hayfield, and the high
and
tunnel.
the high
the
tunnel.
high tunnel.
Yeah, those are going to be three motions here, three separate motions, but, okay, but now we're talking about the hay, but getting back to a comment that I'm trying to get a sense of this.
This should be simple.
Yes,
It should be.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
overthinking it.
oh, okay, and that is, okay, so we're gonna be asking the commissioners basically to go along with this. And if they say yes,
We're going to ask them, would they be willing to lease?
Right.
yeah,
That's all, not
No,
go
no,
along,
no,
not
we're-
anything else, just are they willing to lease?
yes, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's right, that's
Well,
right.
don't keep changing the words.
Well, no, it's lease the blueberry production, the hay production, and the high tunnel. That's what we're asking them to lease.
Yes,
But the verb is willing to lease.
We're,
oh, okay, we'll take willing out of it.
Are they
No, that's in
willing to
here.
lease?
Willing to
Okay,
lease.
okay. Semantics here. But if I've understood Mark correctly, the commissioners say yes. Then that will come back to this committee then to define what sort of conditions or what that's going to include.
Well, we might help formulate that,
Right.
then we have to go back to the commissioners.
Yes, okay, I just want to be sure the transit of all of this, okay. All right,
They are overpowered with everything they need to do. You have functions, everything else. We want this to be a real effort, more so than it has ever been done in the past, and we're gonna help them get there.
If they so
If they
decide
so
they
choose.
need help.
Yes, okay, all right. Is there any further discussion? If not, we're now voting on the motion basically for the hayfield.
Got it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I'm getting a little abstaining.
Again, you're abstaining? Okay, so the 5 votes in the affirmative and 1 abstention. Okay, now, the next motion is basically regarding the high tunnel. And that motion has been made and seconded, Susan?
Yes,
It's been made, it has been seconded?
Mark.
Okay, all right.
Good.
You got one.
He's right
You're
on
part of the
Mark
record
today.
now. Okay, is there any further discussion on the high tunnel, on the motion for the high tunnel? If not, all those in favor of the motion for the high tunnel?
Aye. Oh, question.
Yes,
Just one thing.
okay.
Is there any, I don't remember, we drove by it in a tractor and that's the only time I've seen it. Is there any usable property around the high tunnel for
Yes.
growing?
Yes.
There is one field outside.
Well,
Carroll.
there's a field right to the,
Yeah.
if you stay looking at it, it's to the right, kind of southeast to
There's
the
a
right,
garden
yes.
there that's,
Yeah.
was there once upon a time.
Okay, so
Yeah.
my question then is, part of the discussion aspect before we vote, what happens if someone wants to do the high tunnel to start their plants and then grow them on property? Should we add a little bit to that,
Have that garden.
to the motion?
Well, they can roll up the sides of the high tunnel and grow right in there.
Not everything.
I don't know much about the high tunnel.
And some unspecified related land or
Thank you.
something.
Something like
It's
that.
It's contiguous, it's
Yeah.
contiguous to it.
Yeah. I like contiguous better because it shows then that it's that property that we talked about, it abuts it.
And it's more syllables.
Yeah, okay. So you want to amend it then? You want to amend the motion to also include?
Oh, yeah.
I'll let Sandy do it.
Contiguous land?
It's her motion, I'll let Sandy amend it if she wants to.
Okay,
Garden plot, a contiguous garden.
yeah.
plot.
Yeah,
Contiguous
the-
garden plot.
The high tunnel plus contiguous
Yes,
garden plot.
Yeah, okay,
I don't know the dimensions.
okay.
We don't need to right now.
No, is there?
And I would be happy to amend my second to include your.
Which is the most important part
You're
of the
too kind, you're
motion.
too kind. Okay, we got to vote on the amendment first. Okay, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, and are you still abstaining? Okay, so the vote is 5 with 1 abstention. Okay, now getting back to the amended article motion to include the high tunnel and contiguous garden plot. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Abstention?
Yeah,
Okay, vote is 5 with 1 abstention. Okay,
I do have a question. Is it cooperative extension is not doing anything there at all for the last year or so?
it's my belief that this year they are not doing it.
Okay,
But I can check right away and.
yeah.
Well, and they can also put in a request to use it again if they want to. I have a question.
Well, I have
Yes.
a comment. What
Wait.
happens if someone comes in and wants to rent the property, a 503C, wants to come in and rent it? And we've already made commitments to these people for 5 years and 7 years.
Well,
they missed their chance.
But we've never offered it to them. We never offered it.
We're offering it right now to anyone who wants it.
Peace.
Maybe, potentially.
piecemeal.
but piecemeal though.
Yeah, you're right.
Piecemeal, I'll bet we still have 800 acres.
Well, what if
I was
they
just-
have a 503C that wants to come in and wants to have a farm like they have down there, only larger, and they need our hay fields to feed their animals?
If I could, I don't think our blueberries can wait another year,
I agree with you on that.
okay? So, and I think our high tunnel is a waste to let sit for a year. So I think we should act on these, and if that bigger group has intention, then let them come forward.
And if
But-
that's a
But
concern,
I waited 15 years for the most beautiful piece of property to have someone come along and put a mall on it. It didn't happen. I don't want to wait.
Thank you.
Let's put it up.
Whoever didn't do it, thank them very much. We don't need any more.
Well,
if that's a concern of the commissioners, I would suggest that they do a 1-year trial lease.
Well,
If that's a concern.
I'm thinking that I have been in contact with some 503Cs, and I'm just wondering
Well, this we put out the bid,
whether I
won't
should
it?
continue or whether I should tell them that it's.
Well, no, continue, but tell them, get your act together.
Yeah,
Come forth
I
with a
mean, they can
project
come
with a-
forward, they can come forward and bid on this.
Of course they can.
I mean, if.
Don't tell them to stop.
Yeah, and if,
Well, I'll ask them to get a plan together, because they were talking about the whole thing, but
Yeah.
I'll ask about a plan, if they, how close they are to a plan that they could present.
If they're really close to a plan, that means we can be done.
Well, no, I don't
like-
think, I think
We don't
they're
need to go
probably
any
6 months.
Right.
No, I'm serious, you're exactly right.
Mhm.
I'm kind of being flighty, but you're right.
But I imagine they're probably 6 to 9 months from a plan that they would be able
But
to
then
present
they
for
would,
money.
should
but-
give a proposal, what should they
A
do?
pre-proposal.
yeah, yeah.
This will, I believe, spark a greater conversation. We're gonna find out, you know, all of a sudden, we're gonna find out if somebody has dibs on that high tunnel out there. We're gonna find out immediately as soon as we do that. And same thing with the blueberries, and same thing with the hay. We should cast a wide net. We have advertising, we work on it. Press releases.
A question, do you know where the things, that little pasture was advertised last year?
It was
Lower
on the
field.
website,
It was in the paper
it was
too,
in the paper,
because I looked at it.
yeah, we
Like
tried.
which paper, the Sun or the
And
Sun?
I went to the,
There was a big article about it in the Sun.
on one of the, yeah, it was in the Sun, on one of those New Hampshire farm sites, I went on that, with it, it was on, I don't know if
Okay.
it was on Craigslist or not.
Was it in the Market Bulletin?
No, it wasn't in the Market Bulletin. See, that was one they didn't,
Right.
but I went to the farmers,
New Hampshire Farm Bureau?
yeah, Farm Bureau, and presented it.
Okay,
The problem, one of the problems was, I think it was a little late,
yep.
because people like to plan now for
Of course.
those things. It's the same way with the hayfield and things, you know. They want to plan ahead, or at least I do.
All right,
Usually,
it's getting close to the witching hour here, but now, 2 weeks before 5, we've got to make a decision about what we're going to be doing for a feasibility study. I mean, we've already, I think in some respects, we've already made that decision. But going forward, are we basically going to be doing that feasibility study in-house here? Are we going to be putting together a proposal? What?
make a motion.
Haven't you
I'm
already
not doing
decided?
it. No way am I
No,
doing
no.
it, Jack. I'll- you
By
want me to make
by
the motion?
leasing out these fields,
No.
by leasing the
No.
stuff, haven't you
No.
decided that's the best way to go?
No, we haven't.
We're only talking about
Three
a
little
few acres.
things.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all.
We haven't even thought about the larger picture, but we have something to offer.
I mean, my opinion, Amanda, is, and this is me speaking, not anybody else here, is we do not need a feasibility study. That's my opinion. But I think we should vote as a body. I'm only one. If I stand sideways, I'm still just one. But I look bigger if I'm broad too. But if we vote, then I will support and we will go forward with the feasibility study. But I think we need to make an official decision on whether we want to do that or
That's
not,
right.
because we
That's
will
right.
only have 4 hours left to do the application if we decide in the affirmative.
And is this a discussion? For comment? I wouldn't say that I'm ready to throw a feasibility study out, but I think to rush in 2 weeks to put together a specs for a feasibility study is not the right thing to do at this time. I would still keep the door open for a feasibility study, and we continue down that road.
There's always that shame.
But it's,
Well, this is not the only entity that would match our funds.
There are not, there are not a lot of foundations out there that basically fund feasibility studies to begin with. That I have found out as I pursued things. What we had here we had the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, who basically twice has done the tour of the farm, and they indicated they had a special grant program that they could give us $5,000, but the application had to be in by March 30th. The Kendall Foundation indicated that they would, that if we were successful with the Charitable Foundation, they would match the, whatever money the Charitable Foundation gave us. So there was combined, there was $10,000, which matched the $10,000, which the commissioners had basically held for us, for a total of $20,000. Now, the thing is, I agree with Mark. I think that door has closed for this cycle for the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. I just don't, I don't think in two weeks, because next week we're gonna be hopefully over at Sullivan County. So that gives us 2 working weekends to basically put 2 Fridays to put it together. I don't think that's time enough to do it. So we've lost that cycle. That cycle with the Charitable Foundation may not come again till sometime next spring. So we've lost a year. And I think therefore the Kendall Foundation is going to be pulling off as well, because they were partnering with the Charitable Foundation. So that's gone. But however, if we are successful, and I'm hoping that we will be, with what we have agreed on today, that, in my humble opinion, based on what I know now, that is not a wasted year. We have really started to move along here. We have made 3, I think, important decisions. That includes the blueberry patch, includes the hay fields, and includes the high tunnel. So it's a question of building on that. And it is very possible that as because Mark is right, okay, we've addressed one small portion of the almost 900 acres here. But in that year, with those 3 under our belt, we've already got the trails network.
And that's a lot of acres
Yeah.
too.
We're already working on an educational learning center. So the fact of the matter is, we've got, well, there may be some small victories. We've still got 3 victories under our belt. And we're so far along, I think, as far as the trail network goes, and as far as the education center, that it's very possible within the next couple of months, we may be able to wrap up a lot more. I mean, there is momentum going here. There is momentum. Sandy?
And it would give us more time to do it in a thoughtful, thorough way, to do physical inventory
Yes.
of the building,
Yes.
without rushing it.
Yep. Let me
My concern was trying to get everything done by the end of March,
Yeah.
which was just impossible.
No, it was not gonna happen. But let me ask, we've got the delegation member here in the commission. Picking up where Sandy is going with this inventory of what we've got, the inventory of the buildings, maybe as we get in the spring, inventory of some of the soil types and so forth. I don't know if somebody's gonna come in and do that for nothing or not, but if we go out and we get bids, who's gonna pay for that? They do that kind of inventory.
Inventory? Don't we have employees, doesn't the county have employees that know what we have?
Maybe they do.
We got measurements.
We already know what the farm soils are.
We're taxed on our building, so I believe.
So we know
taxed on
that much?
building.
Okay.
So we have tax cards to start with.
Okay, all right.
There's a lot of information.
And there's
Okay.
tape measures.
Yeah, okay.
But if you're doing a 7-year lease on something, why go on anymore?
Well, first of all, we don't know it's gonna be a 7-year lease. Let's get the permission to lease, and then we'll start working out.
See, I think you're closing the door, but,
What are we closing the door on?
Yeah,
on whatever the result of this feasibility study done in-house might show.
We're not closing any doors. All we're talking about is getting a listed enumeration of what the assets are.
And what are we gonna do with that?
But if we're doing
We don't
something.
know. We're just
But-
getting it down on paper. in
No,
one
we're
spot.
doing something with the blueberry patch, the hay
I
fields, and the high
understand
top.
that, I understand that, but why go on with the other? Because a lot of the things are eliminated. I mean, you aren't gonna have a 503C come in, or a
We don't
learning
know that.
center that will take everything.
We
That
don't
will
know
want
that.
all of the property to work with. You're not gonna get a
So
farmer
why
that
have I
wants to-
spent the last 3 weeks looking at this matrix if we're gonna wait on a 501c3 to show up and take over
No,
everything.
no, I'm just saying, you haven't, by doing certain things, you've shut the door on other things.
But are we supposed to wait?
No, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that we should wake up and say, yes, okay, we've shut the door on this, so I don't know if we need to go and study all the lakes and the
Well,
forestry soils or the
If-
field
if-
soils.
If I could,
because we're
maybe
going
I'll
to
go
do
back to
something.
Steve's question. The county should know right now how many buildings I have, how many acres I have, how big the buildings are, what sort of repair they're in, what my equipment is, and what kind of repair that's in. I should be able to open up a book right now and show
Exactly,
them find that.
exactly. Yep.
So if there's holes in any of that, we can help fill that.
Okay.
That's great. We're not closing doors on anything, because maybe a certain level of the 501c3 wants 900 acres. I'll bet there's another subset out there, once we start showing that we're stewards of this, and here's what we have, we're gonna attract other people. I mean, I never in my life would have thought people would want to come here to ride horses.
You
I
know
just-
different now, don't you?
I do, so I'm just
He went out and
saying.
bought a horse.
Yeah.
And,
But- So we're not closing the door on anything.
No.
and by allowing, I could turn it around and say, by allowing a 501c3 to come in and do everything, we're closing the door on all these other options.
Exactly.
So, I mean, hopefully no one gets their feelings hurt, but I'm glad we're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I say to my kids all the time, just do something, even if it's wrong, do something. At least you're doing something.
Yeah, but
Well,
we
they're
did
6 and
something
9.
wrong with a whole lot of 42,000 people's property.
No, but I don't think we're doing anything wrong yet.
We heard that people wanted us to do as much of this as possible.
Yes, that's a very good point.
She doesn't say much, but when she does.
So we're going to need a statement that goes to the commissioners, and we could certainly stand a little presentation by our chairman.
I'd be happy to,
Wednesday?
I'd be happy.
I just
I'll just
think
answer
it'd be
questions.
nice to be coming from our chairman to make the presentation.
Would it help to have others here, or
I think
is
it'd
he
be-
good
I think-
enough?
I think it,
This is your meeting, Wednesday.
This coming Wednesday?
isn't that's when your commissioners meet next time?
Oh,
It's
yes,
Wednesday.
oh, okay.
If you can be there, I can't be there, I'm in Concord, so.
Yeah. I'll get on the agenda for Wednesday.
Okay.
Da-na.
I have one more.
They
oh,
give
never
me the
mind, I'll save
gavel
it.
on that day.
I'll save it for 2 weeks.
Okay. Again, I'm just speaking for you, but I think we want to be careful here. That somehow we may be conveying that, well, we're hoping to get permission, approval, whatever we would want to lease out some of the property here. That was somehow, at the same token, going to be setting this aside for some nonprofit that, we're saving it for them. And I would hope that what it would do, if there's interest, that there'd be some sort of a competitive situation or something like that as to who's going to be making the best uses of this property, whatever it is, that we're giving everybody a fair shot at it. Am I missing the point here?
Do we have the say of who's doing the best?
They
Or
will.
do they have
They
the
will.
say?
They will say that.
We're waiting, we as the commissioners are waiting for the recommendation of this committee.
What kind of recommendation on what?
But it says in the statement that that's the use of the property.
Okay, I have a question for the commission, the chairwoman of the commissioners. Do you have a copy of this matrix, correct?
Yeah.
Could you get a yay or nay on these items on the matrix as to whether they would be allowed here on Carroll County land?
I think that would be putting the cart before the horse. I really do. They have seen the matrix. And I
You
have
haven't
not
seen the
heard-
latest one.
I haven't
But-
heard any big objections.
Okay.
But that's based on the old ones, right?
Yes, it is. It's just
Yeah.
summarized and simplified.
So I left them up here on the wall for several meetings and things, so I've heard no objections. The only objection was
I know which one of you looked at him.
raising,
Marijuana dispensary?
dispensaries are raising
What was the discussion?
contraband material, or medicinal marijuana, that's the word, sorry. Or a medicinal
So we
marijuana
should, so
dispensary.
we should cross that right off this matrix then.
Well, no, there was just a question about it, didn't say yea or nay.
Well, let's say,
And my comment to them at the time was, well, why don't we wait and see what the committee recommends?
I have a question, and again, I'm asking where your commissioners at, because I want to be clear. We advertise, put out the fact that, I'll just say the Hayfield is available to lease out.
You can't do that.
after, or you put it out there after you say, our recommendation to you right now is to lease out the Hayfield.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay, you bring that to the
Right,
commissioners.
Yes,
so now
yes.
you
But
say,
commissioners-
okay,
The commissioners look at that and they decide.
right, so you'll be deciding on these 3 things on Wednesday.
No, no. Read back what the motion was, please. It was, would we consider, are we
Would you be willing?
to consider? Or willing to,
Willing to
not that we
lease.
would, but that we would be willing to.
Well, then we've done nothing.
How's that left then? I mean, I'm with Dale, it seems to be kind of in limbo. If you're willing to consider, how do we move it to the next step for you to make that decision?
I was thinking after Wednesday, we could advertise that the Carroll County Blueberry Patch was available for lease by a private citizen.
Yeah.
With terms.
With terms, right.
Yes.
You gotta
yeah.
put together the potential
Okay.
lease first.
Well, no, but I'm, yes, but,
But
We'll talk about the details.
we will, the question was, would the commissioners be willing to? And they'll give you back a yes or a no. And then you can decide from there, if you think it's a good idea, then you say, we believe that this would be a good idea. And
This is
then the
the committee.
commissioners will look at that. and-
we're telling you it's a good idea by asking you if you're willing to do that. We're-
No.
That's not the
Yeah.
question you're asking.
That's not what you said.
Ed, go ahead. Go ahead.
I have to say something. of course.
Please do.
Shouldn't you be putting together separate presentations for your ideas, putting it together, agreeing on it, practicing it, and then bringing all of those ideas to the commissioners as the committee's recommendation?
They
Shouldn't
want
that
to,
happen?
they want to piecemeal.
No, stop,
You say
stop,
they.
Stop with the piecemeal.
Well, that's my that's my
I-
comment.
okay.
I don't understand why you're gonna go to the commissioners for one item, and then what? You're gonna come back here and then talk about it more? It sounds like you need to get all of these situated, presentable, bring it in, let the commissioners decide, that's what they asked you to do, is come up with a recommendation. You're not asking them permission, you're giving them a recommendation. Present every single one of them, and let them make the decision. That's their decision.
We were hoping to make progress, so rather than wait until we had everything studied and determined, that we would, as we came up with conclusions, we would present to the
If
commissioners.
they,
the result.
I see it as a 2-step process. We go to the commissioners, we ask if they're willing to do this, if they will consider leasing it. They say yes, then we move on to stage 2. We don't need to advertise next week, we can advertise
In the
in 2
spring.
weeks.
Well, that was the
No,
question that
no,
I had
your
asked
next
you.
stage. Your
So,
next stage.
if I
Yeah.
could just finish.
Yeah.
If the commissioners say, my God, I need to think about that we're done. We're done. We don't have to work on that anymore.
My understanding is what, and again, just me, what I thought we accomplished here today, and I'm gonna stick with the blueberry patch. By asking the commissioners if they were willing to quote the, whatever I said there, my meaning behind that motion was to get permission from the commissioners to advertise leasing the blueberry patch. That was my intent on the motion.
That's not going to happen.
Why isn't that gonna happen?
If the commissioners think it's a good idea, they will do the advertising. They will set the conditions.
Yeah, that's fine, but with that permission, you would move forward with that immediately, not coming back to us, not thinking about
Well,
it.
no, you did not say. The recommendation of the Lands Committee is to rent the blueberry fields. If you give us.
Can I make another motion on?
No, if you give us that, then maybe I can say, okay, here's the recommendation from the Lands Committee. Somebody will come and explain why they think that's a good idea. And then I'll try to get a vote as to whether or not the commissioners agree to rent or not to rent. If they agree to rent, then they will do the advertising and the lease, etc. Now, I may be wrong, but that's the way they're going to go, correct?
But it's, I
thought that was required.
I understand where Dale wants to go right off the bat. I think as a committee, we could serve as a resource in helping put that together. We need to know if we can rent out they'll rent out the blueberry production. Yes or no? Simple answer, yes or no. Then it's gonna move to a lease arrangement. But we might also help craft what that might involve, if we choose to. If we don't choose to, and they just put it out for a straight lease, that's fine.
Well, in the recommendation, you could volunteer. The committee could volunteer to assist with whatever's necessary.
Are you opposed to doing that, Dale?
This
I
committee-
can tell you that they have put these things up in the past and it's gone nowhere.
Well, with all due respect, I can see why.
And that's.
Thanks.
No,
and that's-
Amanda, no.
No,
just-
it's all right, it's okay, I got it.
What
I
I
got
mean
it.
by that
I got
is,
it,
what?
I got it.
I am such a, and you're the same way, I know you are, I don't know how you do this, but common sense tells me that if we are saying as a committee that we want to present this to the commissioners, because we think it's a good idea,
Then say, the
Then say that.
committee, the Carroll County Lands Committee recommends to the commissioners that the blueberry fields be rented to an outside entity.
did any of the other
And
five?
we will assist in that if you so choose. But you need to give them the facts as to why you think it's a good idea to rent them.
We know that our blueberry fields are going,
To hell in a handbasket, I'll say it.
Put it, you know, that there is not enough help in DP, no, you can say something like there's not enough help available to
No.
maintain them in the way that
no,
properly should be
because
maintained.
then we start getting into a discussion on why we don't have enough help to do this. We're
The
asking.
fact is, we don't. Can't we just give that
why-
back?
We don't need to say that. Steve, Mr. Chairman, will go there and talk about how we've been working diligently and now every week on what's the best use of the land. We want to focus on something that's already out there, and we believe that we want to know, and we're willing to assist. If we're asked to assist, we're willing to. We don't need to give you any more facts than that.
We want to know why we think it's the best thing.
I'm about 2 seconds away from just leaving the
Well, no,
table,
but my-
and I'll be gone from here.
But
I
the
just want to
things you
say,
told me were
I
important.
don't need to, all I'm looking for as a committee member here is, are you willing to, because right now, the last resort on the blueberries, we'll stay with blueberries, was come pick your own, okay?
Right.
$400. Okay, $400, okay? We want to know whether the commissioners will allow themselves to rent that to an outside facility, and under conditions, and you no longer have to care for it. Yes or no? I don't need to, it should be very evident to the commissioners why that makes sense or not. And if they don't think it makes sense, they say no. If they say no, we forget about the blueberry fields. It's just part of the aggregate 900 acres.
Okay. No, Mark, what little I know about blueberries, believe they're neglected. So I would think somebody that was going to care for them and put nets over them and whatever would be the best things for the blueberries. But we have other people in the commission who know nothing about blueberries and wouldn't know that maybe renting would be the best, why we would think that was the best thing.
You have a farmer, you have two farmer commissioners. One's a hay guy, one's a, whatever it is you do, but you own farmland. Okay? I've heard about pigs, I've heard about chickens, I've heard about hayfield, cows, okay? So there's two that have relatively good knowledge. The third commissioner has been involved in the property and should be versed in agricultural, at least the fairs that we have. It shouldn't take a boatload of facts.
So you don't think this committee should educate a little about it?
Well, first of all, we have to remove you from this committee to have an education.
Because you're the commissioner's representative here, so you should be able to go back to the commissioners and the other two and say, this is why the committee thinks this is a good idea, correct?
Yeah. That was the reason we asked you and Mark to be on the committee, basically to be the vehicle to.
Okay, I can see, so I would be doing the educating. Okay, I can see that, I can do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Steve's coming as the chairman to discuss why, in brief terms, why we think this is a good idea. And if, I hate to keep getting back to it if you don't like the idea, but we'll forget it. And then the commissioners then will go on and be the stewards of blueberries. Or maybe we'll find out that nobody still wants to come do blueberries, and then it stays with you. And then it would tell us then that blueberries certainly isn't a draw.
Let me just jump in here. Our mission, which we've stated several times today, is to find optimal use.
That's.
Okay, now if based on the history that to date is, and again, trying to be diplomatic, has the county been able to utilize the blueberry bush field to the best optimal use? And I think we've come to consensus that it's not been able to do that. That therefore, maybe the best use for that might be to turn it over to a private sector who will be much more maybe experienced and know how to basically utilize that blueberry patch to the best use.
You're arguing,
I'm preaching to the choir.
Discussion.
yeah.
Okay,
That's
all
it,
right.
that's
So-
it. You
Oh,
know,
okay.
because I abstained, I didn't express an opinion because I don't think I should. Looking at it as I should be the one to present the facts to the commissioners that this committee based their decision on.
Yes, because you're the conduit, you're the spokesperson, just as we expect that from Mark to the delegation.
Okay.
So that you go to them and say, look, this is what we think is not, you can now speak for us when you're speaking to the commissioners.
Okay.
You're the conduit, you're the spokesperson.
But that's what I tried to say, were those the facts, and Mark said, no, that's not the fact. And so what I guess I need from you is what your reasoning is, not just that it's common sense. That makes sense to me, but that makes sense to Dale, but that may not make sense to other people.
If I could.
Yes.
You have abstained from the vote, so you're not in a position to say the committee's position. That's the Mr. Chairman's to do. I believe what the chairman is telling you then, that you will become an educational conduit to your members, telling them why or why we feel this way. As I'm going to then go to the delegation, I'm going to say, and then I'm going to have to start working through, are we going to allocate money if we're asked to take care of some of these extraneous things? But I can say the delegation, this group has been working hard. They found 4 areas that we'd like to focus on, and we've made a recommendation. Now, I educate my delegation, you educate, but I do not want you to make that presentation, I want the chairman to make the presentation on Wednesday.
And he'll make the presentation on the 19th to the delegation.
If it's got a favorable,
Does the delegation have to approve leases?
yes.
That has to approve.
But we could probably approve a lease, possibly as an executive committee. If it's something minor, we're talking something very minor here. And if it's important enough, I'll pull the delegation together and we'll have a delegation. You're not gonna have a lease to bring to us by the 19th, but then I can explain to, or we can get, we will ask to come by and set a little bit of time aside. If it's looking favorable from the commissioners, and we can just give a 5-minute presentation, here's where we're going. But you're not gonna have a lease signed by
No.
next week, and we're not gonna have a lease to consider on the 19th. But I think if we can get everybody to start feeling some energy happening here, I think we're benefiting.
Question. Susan, you're making a presentation on the 25th?
28th.
28th? To whom?
The commissioners,
About?
non-motorized trails.
The presentation she gave to us.
Okay.
Will
Would that
we-
make any sense to make all 3 of those at the same time?
Will,
All 4
will
of those
we,
at the same time?
will we see that, your final
I don't know if you'll
recommendation?
wait till
or-
28th.
Before
It's
it
gonna
goes to
take a lot of
commissioners?
him
Yeah, yeah.
contact.
Okay, all right, all
I
No,
right.
think you want to find out if they're willing to do
Yeah,
this, so you
okay.
can start getting. Apparently, you farmers need a lot of time to think about
It
things.
takes a, well.
Wait a minute.
It's not thinking,
Wait a
it's
minute.
planning.
What I would like to do is send an email, so they have a day or 2 to think about it before it's presented.
Well, should Steve send the email to give them the facts to think about it before they come?
That would be fine.
Or Steve sends it to
You're welcome.
Amanda and
Thanks,
Steve
Dale.
sends it out?
Yeah,
Steve sends it to
asking-
you and you send it out?
Steve's requesting to be on the agenda, these are the things we're going to discuss.
Before we go, can I address Ed's concern, personally?
Uh-huh.
I think it's important, yes, the theory was to make a huge recommendation and cover everything here, but I think it's important to me that the taxpayers and the residents of Carroll County see that we're doing something, and there is some progress being made, and we're trying to implement some of the things that we're doing, instead of just talking about them round and round in circles every day. That's my opinion.
I share that.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
To adjourn, is there a second?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?